Welcome. Thank you for attending this evening. This is the Lineage Innovations timeline presentations. These are the timeline presentations. This is Seminar 1 and Section 1. And here we're going to be looking at the context of what I call personal archaeology. Archaeology, of course, people immediately will think about going to some far-off place or some local place, digging up old buildings and finding artifacts, etc. In this case, personal archaeology means that we're going to be looking at your own life in relation to larger history. Remember, we're all history makers. This is talking about our own life, our family's life, our great-grandparents, etc., going back. And also we can look at the collective experiences of people as well. So we're looking at your stories so far, and to do this, I want to introduce 3 tools. The 3 tools are going to be the timeline. We're going to be looking at, with that, 9,000 years of history, a historical continuum. We're going to be looking at the life cycle, which is going to be a way to look at your life. But then we're going to look at the influences that hit us. We're going to be looking with the 2 tools that we call autosuggestion and heterosuggestion. Here we see the life cycle, which I always refer to as rites of passage. At the top you'll see a term Irondu, which means plan for life. This is an Igbo, West African term, and it actually means basically that people plan for the lives of their children to give at least a strong foundation. There's a quote here from Desjardins that says, "We are spiritual beings having a human experience." Desjardins is an interesting character, a Roman Catholic monk who was actually ostracized by many of the Catholics because of his spirituality, which was going far beyond the religion that he was a member of. But that's for later in the presentation. If we start off with here, we see parental intention at number 1. And the word, well, what is that word? Could you please read that word off? Did you say recreation or recreation? You see, it's spelt the same, but it's got 2 different intentions. One, recreation, is just like, maybe we might call it the hoochie wally, just doing it for whatever sake, just to feel good. But then recreation means that we're actually having sex and wanting to conceive with an intention of bringing forward life. Like I said, it's spelt the same, but 2 different intentions. Number 2 is conception. This is where the sperm hits the egg, and then the mother becomes pregnant. So we have a state of pregnancy, 9 months. Someone like Bruce Lee, in Chinese tradition, Bruce Lee was 33 years when he died, but in European tradition he was 32. That's because the Chinese consider the 9 months inside the womb as 1 year. Then we have number 3, we have birth. Number 4, we have childhood, but then if you see there right in the middle, we've got number 7. The first 7 years we call the formative development. There's an old adage in the Catholic Church. It says, "Give me the child before the age of 7, and I will give you the man." Now the term man does not mean male, and it doesn't mean adult. The word man is a Sanskrit Indian term, which means mind. Now let's relook at that phrase. Give me the child before the age of 7, and I will give you the mind. So basically, many of our experiences pre-7 years old, or during that first 7 years, will visit us for the rest of our lives. After that, we see us going into the phase of puberty and adolescence. But then there's a phase of preparation that needs to be consciously done. Jewish people have a fantastic structure where 12 years old, because of the maturation rate of girls being faster than boys, they have bat mitzvah for the girls, for the reproductive preparation, and it's bar mitzvah for boys. 13 years on, we've got adulthood preparation, where we teach self-governance and social literacy. I have the idea of puberty is that we can reproduce self, but then you've got another phase called adolescence, or as I would call it, adolescence. It can be a very problematic phase as children grow into adulthood, and sometimes there are different traumas and different rates of maturation that take place there. 19 years old, consciously, number 5, adulthood preparation. And then now we can go quite quickly through this. At 25 years old, we have the stage of junior adulthood. That's number 6. That takes place until 37, where we have phase 7, senior adulthood, until 49, when junior eldership takes place. And 61, senior eldership. At 73, wise eldership. And at 85, well, they always say the only thing we're certain of in life is death and taxes. This one's only looking at death. So death is a transitional state into what we call ancestry. Now, certain people believe in that, some people don't. But then there's another faith, another belief that at number 13 you see there, reincarnation. Some beliefs say that if we don't learn the lessons we're meant to learn in this life, we'll repeat another life until our souls have learned the lesson we need to learn. As you look on that side, you'll see in yellow, it says the spiritual realm, and in green, it says material realm. So we have this transitional point, these two states that are always side by side. Like the statement, again, I'll go back to this statement by Desjardins. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Were you raised in Manchester? If so, this is our logo in Manchester, the coat of arms. What you'll see there right in the center is a ship. In Manchester, they will tell you it's a cotton trader. They'll focus on the cotton. But the cotton was only one side of a 3-stage journey, which they call the triangular trade, where goods will be loaded, taken down into West Africa on the currents that run. This is called the Canary Current, that runs from Europe down into the African currents. We have the West African current that takes you into the coastline of West Africa. There they would load up with Africans who would then be in a state of enslavement, and then they would carry across to the Caribbean, into South America, into North America, and then over there produce will be grown, and then by slave labor, and then they will be taken back across with the Canary Current, by the Gulf Stream into Europe. So that's the triangular trade. They call it the triangular slave trade. Now, if you're educated in Manchester, what we actually have is a view here of the inside of that ship, which here is the Brooks. This is actually from Liverpool. And what you here is close pack slave shipping. So what we have there are 2 images of the Brooks, which show the conditions that there were in existence on that journey across from the African continent into the Americas. If you were educated, the school exercise book would always have the coat of arms on it. So subliminally, if you are a person of African descent, you are always being reminded of that journey. And as we see, a bigger version of what's at the top of the exercise book. Let me just take that. So if you were educated in Manchester, you may remember these books that look like this. So what did you learn about yourself in school? Please remember, there's no neutral learning. Most people of African descent, when they went to secondary school, learned one distinct thing. You were slaves. No more, no less. And if there's nothing else showing your capabilities past that point of people who look like you, there was a constant reminder of that state of being.